this is the second video of after the session. I'm joined with my co-worker, Doug Withrow, and we decided we would talk a little bit about shame. So first, I guess before that, can you tell me a little bit about your practice, what you do?
Yeah, I am a therapist here working with you, and a lot of my clientele is working with people in addiction, in recovery, in healing relationships that have been impacted by infidelity or addiction. And so one of the things that comes up with all of that inevitably is shame. And people carry shame about their behavior. They carry shame regarding what other people have done to them. And also they carry shame about just life circumstances. And that can be body shame, it can be diagnoses they have and those kind of things. And really being able to kind of get underneath that is real important, because when we get underneath the shame and we begin to kind of root it out, we get more in kind of our adult selves and we make better decisions for ourselves. We show up in more intimate ways in our relationship, more transparent, because it no longer controls us.
There's I think so much talk about shame, right? Recently in our industry, and it's kind of leaks out into other places now. What is your understanding of what shame is? How would you define that or say what that means?
Well, I think the predominant understanding of shame right now is related to behavior, and Brene Brown talks a lot about that, with the idea that there's shame and then there's guilt. Guilt is I made a mistake. Shame is I am a mistake. And to be able to really shift that. In addition to that current understanding of it, I think shame also gets in the way of us being authentic. And we don't always identify it with that kind of kick in the gut guilt piece, that we have lived in shame. In a lot of ways, our culture perpetuates shame. Our childhood obviously perpetuates shame. And we just learn to live with it, with the idea that I'm not quite good enough. I'm never achieving what I need to achieve, and it's always the next thing, it's always the next thing. And we need to learn how to be authentic, and not authentic from that reactive kind of childlike place, but authentic from that really grounded adult place, and be able to say, that hurt, or man, I'm lonely.
So I have a question about, right, so I think to myself sometimes, what is a better life? Right? So why have less shame? Why shame reduce? Why be more authentic? I mean, why not just sort of carry on with the shame and do things as a person may have always done?
Because when we're in our shame, we don't allow ourselves to feel connected, because it's too shameful to really let someone know who I am. And when we start covering up our shame, when we start covering up our authentic selves, it just inevitably comes out sideways. And it comes out sideways with anxiety, depression, addiction. It comes out sideways in our self-judgment, our judgment of others. And when we start doing those kind of things, it becomes self-destructive, and it's destructive in our relationships. And so if I begin to get real good at noticing when shame comes up, and I take care of it, I show up in such a much more healthy place. And I realized, hey, I'm not alone in this. Go ahead.
I was just thinking to myself, okay, so this, and maybe we'll make this as just a last question for this kind of a shorter interview here, but I'm wondering, so how do we move from a place that is more shameful to a place where there is less shame or more in our authentic, like what are the indicators? What are you seeing on somebody? What's maybe the inner experience? I mean, any of those things. But.
Well, I think first is identifying it and what the roots are. If it's something I've done, to be able to shift and say, that doesn't make me a bad person, I'm a learning person, I'm going to grow, I can do this better, I can make amends, and I can end up showing up differently in my life. If it's something that's been done to me, I need to hand that back and say, that's not mine. I'm allowed to talk about this. I'm allowed to talk about my hurt. And then some places, if it's shame about my circumstances, if I struggle with depression, it's being able to say that's just how I'm wired. Or if it's I have shame about my body, it's being able to embrace myself and learning to love myself. And so that I think it starts with finding some safe places, and that can be a 12-step group, it can be a therapeutic group, it can be a friendship group, where I can talk about my life experience without feeling like I'm going to be judged for it. There's a place of acceptance. And then I can do other things, like I can be in a place of gratitude. Connection with God or a higher power is real helpful in reducing our shame. Actually, there's a lot of research. Being in touch with nature helps with those kind of things. But it starts with awareness of when am I in my shame stuff. And then just being able to say, hey, I need some people I can talk about this with. And that brings healing.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Doug, thank you for taking the time to sit with me. Obviously, I know there's probably a lot more that's involved, but I think you hit on some really important parts about shame. So thank you for sitting down with me and being here.
Well, thanks for asking me.
Yes, absolutely.